few years ago, my friends and I decided to visit the county fair in Springfield, Illinois. It was summer break, we were bored, and the fair was a yearly tradition that always promised something exciting. That evening started pretty normally. My best friends, Jake and Emma, and I spent hours going from ride to ride, stuffing ourselves with cotton candy and funnel cake. As night fell, the neon lights began glowing brighter, and the crowd slowly started thinning out. Around 10:30 p.m., we saw the mirror maze on the edge of the fairground. It was one of those attractions that seemed a bit outdated, but the bright blinking bulbs and the warped mirrors drew us in. The sign outside said it would close at 11, so we figured we'd be the last visitors of the night. Inside, the maze was dimly lit with colored bulbs that shifted from red to blue, casting weird shadows everywhere. Mirrors lined every wall and even the ceiling, making the room seem endless. I kept bumping into my reflection, laughing and feeling disoriented at first. Jake and Emma quickly got ahead of me, their laughter fading into the twists and turns. A few minutes later, I realized how quiet it had gotten. The low hum of the carnival outside seemed distant and muffled. I called out to my friends, but my voice just echoed back at me, bouncing off the glass. I started to feel uneasy, and I picked up my pace, certain I'd catch up soon. As I turned another corner, the lights flickered suddenly, plunging the maze into darkness. Instinctively, I stopped and reached for my phone. Its glow barely cut through the gloom, reflecting off endless copies of my nervous face. I looked around slowly, trying not to panic, expecting the lights to snap back on at any second, but they didn't. I yelled Jake and Emma's names again, louder this time, but still nothing. That's when I noticed the exit signs had stopped glowing. They had been lit green, but now they were just dark rectangles on the mirrors, blending into the shadows. I began moving cautiously, using my phone's flashlight to guide me, but the reflections confused my sense of direction even more. I tried calling Jake's phone, but it went straight to voicemail. Same with Emma's. My heart beat faster as the reality sunk in. I was stuck, alone, inside a maze with no clear way out. Checking the time, it read 11:04 p.m. The maze was supposed to close at 11. They wouldn't lock up without checking if anyone was inside, would they? A creak sounded somewhere behind me, soft but clear enough to stop me in my tracks. I whipped around, the phone beam dancing wildly across dozens of reflections. For a second, I thought I saw movement, a dark shape, quick and low, but when I steadied the light, there was nothing. My mind was racing now, convincing myself it was just nerves, shadows playing tricks on me. But that reasoning did nothing to calm me down. Every sound felt amplified. Every breath I took echoed in the oppressive silence. I forced myself to move again, stepping carefully forward, hands outstretched to avoid crashing into mirrors. I didn't dare call out anymore, my throat tight with the fear that someone might answer back who wasn't Jake or Emma. Then, from somewhere in the dark maze, I heard it, slow, deliberate breathing. It wasn't coming from me. It was heavy, labored, and sounded disturbingly close. I froze, my flashlight beam trembling. My reflection stared back at me, wide-eyed and pale, mirrored 1,000 times. "Hello," I managed quietly, hoping desperately it was a carnival worker coming to find me. No answer came, just the rhythmic breathing, now more distinct. Each inhale and exhale felt heavy, strained, almost animalistic. Backing up slowly, I bumped into a mirror, my shoulder hitting it with a dull thud. My pulse quickened even more. The breathing paused suddenly, replaced by a heavy silence. I held my breath, straining to listen, trying not to let fear take full control. Then I heard a shuffling, soft but unmistakable, footsteps moving slowly toward me. I spun around and tried moving faster, stumbling into reflections, getting more disoriented with every panicked step. My phone slipped from my sweaty grip, bouncing off the mirrored floor. The flashlight flickered and shut off, plunging me into total darkness. I dropped to my knees, frantically groping around, desperately searching for the phone. The breathing had resumed now, louder, closing in. My fingertips finally brushed against something smooth, my phone. Grabbing it, I turned the flashlight back on, just as another reflection shifted behind me. I spun sharply, shining the beam into the darkness. This time I saw clearly. Not a shadow, not a distorted reflection, but a figure standing just out of reach of the light. It stood there, completely still, watching me silently. I couldn't make out the details of the face, only the vague outline of someone tall, shoulders hunched forward. Fear surged inside me, overwhelming my thoughts. Without hesitation, I bolted blindly forward, crashing into mirrors, ignoring the sharp pains in my shoulder and arms. The breathing behind me grew louder, faster, as the figure started following, footsteps quickening. Every turn felt wrong. I was lost, terrified, and exhausted. Just when it felt hopeless, I turned one last corner and saw faint moonlight spilling from an open doorway. I sprinted toward it, finally breaking free from the maze and stumbling onto the damp grass outside. Panting, I looked around frantically, expecting whoever was inside to emerge behind me, but nobody came out. The maze stood silent, dark, and empty. The carnival lights had shut down completely by now. I spotted Jake and Emma talking worriedly with a carnival worker across the field. When they saw me, they rushed over, relief flooding their faces. We quickly reported what had happened, but when security checked the maze, no one was inside. They insisted it had been cleared before closing. No sign of the figure I'd seen. No evidence anyone else had been trapped with me. The worker shrugged it off, suggesting my imagination had gotten the best of me. But I'm sure someone else was in that maze. This happened back in 2002, when I was in high school in Austin, Texas. School let out early that Friday, and the sun was already cooking the sidewalks by noon. I was walking home past Barton Springs Road when an old classmate, Josh Miller, jogged up and told me there was a traveling carnival setting up along Lady Bird Lake. He said it opened at 5 and would run late. I barely heard the rest. My mind was on rides, funnel cake, and the chance to dodge the heat once the sun dipped. At home, I dropped my backpack, phoned my best friend Harry Wallace, and pitched the plan. We agreed to meet back at my place at 6:30 so we could bike over before the evening rush. My parents were still at work, and in 2002, nobody thought twice about two kids biking a couple of miles if we promised to be home by 10. The ride along the lake trail was easy. By 7:05 p.m., we rolled under the blinking entrance lights. Music hissed through big speakers, the Ferris wheel turned slowly against a pink sky, and the air smelled like popcorn mixed with diesel from the generators. It felt safe. Too many families around us to imagine danger. Harry wanted the Ferris wheel first. From the top, we could see the water on one side and the city skyline glowing orange on the other. When the ride stopped, we wandered toward the game booths. That was when a tall man in a faded Astros cap stepped out of the crowd and blocked my path. "Where's your dad?" "I'm his friend," he said. His voice was even, but his smile never reached his eyes. I told him my dad wasn't here and that we'd come alone. He nodded, kept the smile, then melted back into the moving bodies. Harry nudged me. "Weird. Bathroom time. I'll catch up at the arcade tent," he said, pointing toward a row of portable toilets near the food trucks. I shrugged and let him go. Inside the arcade tent, the lights were dim and the floor sagged under the weight of old pinball machines. 5 minutes passed. I played one round of skee-ball, glanced toward the entrance, and saw the man in the Astros cap standing just outside. He spotted me, turned, and disappeared again. 10 more minutes. No Harry. I told myself he'd gotten stuck in line, but the look on the stranger's face kept replaying in my head. I left the tent and walked to the bathrooms. All 3 portable stalls were empty. My stomach sank. A security guard in a yellow vest stood near the bumper car gate. I forced the words out fast. "Friend missing, maybe half an hour, last seen near the restrooms." The guard checked the stalls himself, radioed a colleague, then suggested we sweep the surrounding area. We circled the food booths and the small petting zoo pen. Nothing. The guard's radio crackled but reported no lost boy. Then we heard a car alarm chirp in the gravel lot beyond the back fence. The guard said we should check there before calling the police, just in case Harry was waiting by our bikes. Rows of pickups and minivans glinted under weak floodlights. Near the far corner, I spotted the Astros cap again, its owner leaning over a dull blue 1998 Chevy Malibu with temporary plates. He froze when he noticed me and the guard approaching. "That's him," I whispered. The guard stepped forward. "Evening, sir. We're looking for a missing kid. Brown hair, red t-shirt. You've seen him?" The man shook his head. Up close, I noticed a bandage on his left forearm and grease under his fingernails. The Malibu's back windows were tinted darker than the legal limit. Something knocked inside. So soft I almost thought I imagined it. There it was again. Thump. I said, "Maybe louder than I meant to, Harry?" The man's face twitched. He barked something about minding our business and tried to slip past, but the guard blocked him and rested a hand on his holstered weapon. "Pop the trunk," the guard said. The man's calm snapped. He shouted that we were harassing him, waving his arms so hard his cap fell. 2 more knocks came from the trunk, weaker this time. The guard drew his pistol halfway, voice steady. "Key, now." Keys rattled. The trunk lid rose. Harry lay curled inside, wrists taped, mouth wrapped in gray duct tape, eyes streaming tears. Relief punched the air from my lungs. The guard cut the tape with a pocket knife while keeping one eye on the stranger. But in those seconds of chaos, me hugging Harry, the guard calling backup, the man bolted. He ducked behind a pickup, vanished between rows of cars, and melted into the carnival crowd just like before. By the time city police arrived, he might have been on the other side of the lake. The Malibu turned out to be stolen from a H-E-B parking lot 2 weeks earlier. Inside, they found rope, extra tape, and a disposable camera with no film. Fingerprints smudged, plates wiped. No cameras covered the lot entrance then. Nobody could trace where he ran. Harry spent the night at the hospital for dehydration, but was otherwise okay. My parents grounded me for the rest of the summer, and I never argued. This happened on August 2017, the last Friday night of the season-closing carnival at Simmons Island Park in Kenosha, Wisconsin. I was 24 then, working a dull office job and desperate for something brighter than spreadsheets. So I drove down after work to wander the lights by the lake. The midway smelled like fried dough and damp grass. I spent an hour drifting through game rows, nursing a lemonade, listening to the distant buzz of stock cars from the fairground track across town. Nothing unusual, just neon, laughter, and the faint slap of waves against the breakwater. Around 9:30, I was standing near the tilt-a-whirl, deciding if my last tickets should go to a final ride or another funnel cake. A carnival worker in a red maintenance vest caught my eye. He was mid-30s, wiry, with tired shoulders and a 5 o'clock shadow that looked like yesterday's. He asked, barely loud enough over the music, if I had a minute. I said sure, thinking he needed directions or maybe change for a 20. He moved closer so the ride operator wouldn't hear. Without looking up, he said someone was following him. A guy from out of town, big gray hoodie, keeps showing up after dark. The worker's name tag said Danny L. His hands fidgeted with a ring of keys clipped to his belt. I asked if he wanted security. He shook his head fast, said the man hadn't done anything, just stared, and the carnival's guards were all talk. Danny's shift ended at 11, parking lot on the west side, past the softball fields. Too dark to walk alone. Could I tag along? Just for the walk. He'd pay me back with a free ride wristband, though I obviously wouldn't need it tonight. I hesitated, checked my phone. It was 9:37 p.m. I told him I'd be by the Ferris wheel at closing, and he nodded, relief flashing for half a second before he hurried back to tighten a bolt on the tilt-a-whirl railing. The next hour crawled. I kept spotting red vests and thinking they were Danny. I didn't see anyone in a gray hoodie, but plenty of people wore sweatshirts. The lake breeze was picking up, temps slipping into the low 60s. At 10:58, the loudspeaker announced final calls. Lights dimmed one section at a time, like house lamps clicking off before bed. I waited under the Ferris wheel while operators unloaded the last riders. 11:10, 11:15, no Danny. I paced by the ticket shack, scanning for that red vest. Workers emerged in small groups, tossing empty cups and bins, joking about breakfast spots. No sign of him or any gray-hooded stalker. At 11:22, I decided he'd found another escort, or maybe just driven off. My car was in the main lot east of the Midway, but curiosity, or stubbornness, pushed me in the opposite direction toward the west lot Danny mentioned. Past the silent food booths, the carnival ended abruptly at a chain-link gate left open for staff. Beyond it, a gravel path curved between 2 dark softball diamonds. No overhead lights, only a weak amber glow leaking from the Midway behind me. Dry leaves crackled under my shoes. I reached the parking area, a flat patch of dirt and gravel rimmed by cottonwoods. Maybe 30 vehicles left. White pickups, vans with faded Carnival logos, a couple of beaten-up sedans. No movement, no voices. The only light came from the marina across the channel, shimmering between parked trailers. "Danny?" I called low, feeling silly. Wind gusted off the water, carrying the smell of algae and exhaust from a fishing boat idling somewhere unseen. No answer. I took out my phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam skimmed across license plates, toolboxes, and a coil of extension cable. About 20 yards ahead sat a tan 1999 Ford Ranger with its driver's door ajar. Keys dangled from the ignition, swinging gently like a metronome. The bed was full of ride parts and a rolled canvas banner. No red vest, no hoodie. I stepped closer and caught a faint metallic ping, like something bumping hollow steel. It came again, almost rhythmic, from deeper in the lot. I followed it, weaving between vehicles, stopping every few steps to listen. The wind died, leaving only that ping and my pulse. Near the tree line stood a dark blue cargo van. All windows were painted over with black primer except the windshield. The ping stopped the second my light hit the van's side panel. I called out again, voice thin now. Nothing. As I inched forward, gravel shifted behind me. I spun the light around. A man stood just inside the path I'd come from. Hood up, hands in pockets, face hidden. He didn't speak, he just started walking, steady, not fast but with purpose, eyes locked on the flashlight glare. Instinct kicked in. I killed the light, plunging us both into darkness, then stepped backward until my shoulder hit the side of the cargo van. I heard his boots grind the gravel, closer, then stop. 10 feet between us, maybe less. I wanted to run, but the lot was a maze. My hand slid along the van's door seam, unlocked. I yanked it open and jumped inside, pulling the door halfway shut. The interior smelled like rubber and stale sweat. My phone light flicked on by accident, flashing across a folded red maintenance vest on the floor. Danny's. Something else, too. A Kenosha Public Library card, named Daniel L. Hart, taped over with fresh ink reading Greg. Buried under the vest was a wallet-sized photo of the hooded man, arms slung over Danny's shoulders, both smiling in what looked like a highway rest stop. Outside, the footsteps resumed, slower now, pacing along the van's length. I crouched behind a stack of tarps, breathing through my sleeve to muffle it. The side door handle rattled once, twice. Then silence again, an awful, thick silence. Minutes passed. I counted 40 breaths, then another 40. Finally, I dared to crack the passenger door. The lot was empty except for cars and the night wind. No hoodie guy, no Danny. I sprinted back to the midway gate, past crew members loading trailers, straight to the sheriff's deputy directing exit traffic. My words tumbled out in pieces. Missing worker, hooded man, abandoned truck, photo. Deputies swept the lot within half an hour. They found the blue van, but nothing inside except my fingerprints on the door and a single red thread caught in the latch. Danny never clocked out that night, and the ride supervisor said no one named Danny Lawson or Hart was on payroll. The Ford Ranger wasn't registered to any employee either. Security tapes showed me entering the lot alone and leaving alone. No hooded figure ever appeared on camera. So maybe I helped a stranger hide evidence I'll never understand. Or maybe the hooded man followed Danny halfway across the country and finished what he came to do before I arrived.